Hello, everyone. It's great to be back in Korea. It's my 5th time in your beautiful country, and I always have a wonderful time spending time with Koreans. Thanks also to Ben and Travis and the rest of the Catalyte team for inviting me to this beautiful event. I am the co-founder of Axelar Network, and today I am going to be talking about a new project that is launching. It is being announced today live on stage for the first time. The project itself is called XRP and is the first project of this kind for the XRPL ecosystem. It will allow users to earn yield passively for holding the token, as well as catalyze the growth of the DeFi ecosystem on XRPL and the XRPL EVM. Before I talk about the actual product, a couple quick disclaimers. The product XRP is not going to be available for customers in the US, the UK, and other restricted jurisdictions. Everything you hear in the presentation is not investment advice. Please also go on the website after this presentation to read the prospectus and the legal documents so you have a better sense of the offering. And finally, everything you hear about today includes inherent risks. The goal with XRP is not to have zero risks. Instead, it is to provide the best risk-adjusted returns for people that want to earn yield on their XRP. So with that said, let's kick off the presentation. To set the stage for XRP, I would like to start with a brief history lesson on the biggest DeFi ecosystem in the space, and that is the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem. Now, in the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem, the biggest asset category that exists is liquid stake tokens, worth $60 billion today, but the situation was very different 5 years ago. Back then, there was very little DeFi on Ethereum, there were no liquid stake tokens, and there was not much to do on the chain. In 2021, with the launch of the first liquid stake token on the Ethereum ecosystem, we saw a plethora of applications and use cases for this type of assets, and this catalyzed adoption of DeFi in the ecosystem. As an example, when Lido, the first liquid stake token in the ecosystem, launched, it started getting integrated into the biggest lending protocols, the biggest collateralized stablecoins, and quickly became by far the biggest asset that was collateral in those protocols. Today, Ethereum's DeFi ecosystem is beyond 100 billion in assets under management, and undoubtedly, this would not have been the case without the rise of liquid stake tokens to support this growth and enable people to use their assets productively, while at the same time being able to earn yield on their tokens. XRP aims to do the same thing for the XRPL DeFi ecosystem, allow users to earn yield while being able to use XRP productively in DeFi and create the backbone of XRPL DeFi. The natural question when you think about that is, why now? If such a primitive is so important for the ecosystem, how come no one built this before? And the answer is simple. Until 2 months ago, the infrastructure required for something like this was not available. 2 months ago, we had the launch of Axelar, which for the first time ever brought interoperability to the XRPL ecosystem, as well as the XRPL EVM, which is the first smart contract layer on top of the EVM. By combining these two important pieces of infrastructure, interoperability and smart contracts, developers are able to build all kinds of interesting products on top of the XRPL and bring unique DeFi opportunities. The first, but not last of these opportunities, being XRP. Now, the problem that XRP is looking to tackle is a very important one. XRP is the third biggest asset in cryptocurrency, with $200 billion in circulating supply, yet XRP remains underutilized and not being available to add in DeFi. I constantly speak to a lot of XRP holders, and the number one ask I hear about is that they don't like that they just idly hold their XRP, and they want to look for safe and transparent sources of yield. But if you look at existing sources of yield for XRP right now, in particular on centralized exchanges, the options are very limited. the yields go as low as 0.5 to 1%, and as a user, you often have to lock up your money for up to 90 days in order to see the benefits. So with this new infrastructure, XRP EVM, Axelar, we want to solve this and provide a transparent solution where the users will be able to get their funds in and out very easily, and anyone can participate. And the solution is the following. Introducing MXRP, the first liquid-staked, yield-bearing version of XRP. It is going to be available on the XRPL EVM, where Midas, which is our partner in this initiative, is launching their smart contracts. It is going to be issued under the ERC20 standard, which makes it composable with all of DeFi, and with Axelar, we're going to take it to 81 other chains, all of the big blockchains in existence. This composability with all of the chains and all of DeFi will lead to real and sustainable yield opportunities. This is not going to be an asset where there's a bunch of incentives, and after a while, the incentives dry up, and you have no incentives. The goal is to have sustainable yield in perpetuity that will be sourced from ecosystems external to XRPL, including Ethereum ecosystem, including Bitcoin, and this yield will be used to buy back XRP. And because it aggregates the best sources of yield across ecosystems, the expectation is that it will offer up to 10% in annual returns by aggregating the best sources of yield you can find anywhere. Now, in addition to that, MXRP is going to be fully composable. For example, users will be able to easily mint and redeem. There are no minimums. Even 1 XRP or a user with 10 XRP will be able to contribute. XRP is for the people, and the product is going to be fully inclusive. But there is a second benefit to buying XRP. The first benefit is that as a user, you earn yield, but you also contribute back to the ecosystem. And in particular, this is very healthy for the price of XRP. Why? Because as mentioned earlier, MXRP gathers yield from all different yield sources, and this is yield unrelated to XRP, denominated in dollars, and then it uses this yield to buy back XRP. So MXRP perpetually puts your XRP at work to earn this yield, use it to buy XRP, and distribute the XRP back to the users. And that's why we call MXRP the first perpetual buyer of XRP. This property will naturally lead to deeper liquidity, which lead to more DeFi integrations and capital network effects. And in turn, you're going to get a bigger ecosystem. This will bring more value, more developers to the XRPL ecosystem, which leads to more structured demand and even more buying pressure for XRP. Overall, this is very healthy for the XRPL DeFi ecosystem and the price of XRP. Now, quick slide about the infrastructure that makes MXRP possible. This is a collaboration between a couple different teams, Axelar and Midas, two big protocols. Each of them today custodies more than $1 billion in value, and by combining those two, we get the result, which is MXRP. Axelar, a lot of you know of us because we've been in the XRPL ecosystem for quite some time. We've been live for 3.5 years, connecting 80 blockchains, 0 security exploits in the lifetime of the system. Midas is a newer protocol that offers institutional-grade tokenization. They grew extremely fast. At the beginning of the year, they had 50 million in assets under management. In 7 months, they grew to more than $1 billion in TVL, which is like a 20x growth, and they have a ton of momentum. They're issuing under EU-approved prospectus with advanced controls and compliance, audited smart contracts, and custody solutions. Also, a few words on the teams. On the Axelar side, myself and my co-founder both went to MIT in the US, where we were part of the founding team of the Algorand blockchain. At Algorand, myself and Sergey designed and built one of the first proof-of-stake blockchains in the space. So we have almost 10 years of experience building secure decentralized systems. The Midas team also comes from an extremely high pedigree. A lot of the team is from Goldman Sachs. One of the co-founders was previously head of product at Ondo Finance, which is a protocol worth $10 billion. And together, those teams work to bring you the user experience of MXRP. In the long term, there's going to be a lot of distribution channels, a lot of places to access MXRP. But in the early days, this is the flow that you will have to access to mint the asset. As a user, you will have to bridge your XRP to the XRPL EVM chain through a product called Squid Router, who is also going to be presented later today, so you're going to learn more about them. Then you go and deposit into the Midas smart contract. The XRP goes into a tier 1 custodian, either Fireblocks or for DeFi. And then through the custodian, there is an asset manager that is going to use the funds to generate the yield. The asset manager chosen for this initiative is called Hyperrhythm. It's a fund with $500 million in assets under management, very big fund. The team is also from Korea, and a few of them are here today, so you can meet them after the presentation. And finally, if you want to withdraw your capital from the protocol, there's going to be fast redemptions. If you want to withdraw the whole capital from the protocol, it will be done in less than 2 days. And for smaller amounts, there is going to be an instant redemption feature for a very small fee. But overall, you can get your money very fast, and there are no long lockups, like with a lot of the centralized products. In addition to that, trust and transparency are very important. Right? People really care about their XRP, and they want to hold it for a long term. And when we talk about trust and transparency, we care both about the on-chain side of things and the off-chain side of things. Now, the on-chain side of things is important because historically there have been a lot of hacks in the space, and both Midas and Axelar prioritize security. All the contracts are audited with very strong track record. But there is also an off-chain layer, and the off-chain layer is needed because MXRP uses an actively managed trading strategy. And this is because if you want to generate high returns, you need to be able to have an asset manager who actively manages the strategy. And this is the off-chain layer. It uses institutional-grade custody, regulated issuance in Europe through Midas, professional asset management by Hyperrhythm, also a team whose founder is from Morgan Stanley, a lot of Koreans on the team. And finally, last but not least, there is 24/7 reporting on-chain where you can see all the positions and where they're held. This is something that you absolutely cannot do in traditional finance. It's only possible because in DeFi, everything is transparent, everything is on-chain, and as a user, you will be able to effectively see a proof of reserves at any point in time directly from your phone. Now, when we talk about trust and transparency, it's important to also understand the underlying strategies. The way this product generates yield is similar to another product you may know of called Ethena. It takes the user's capital, it deploys into delta-neutral strategies, and returns the yield to the users. The difference from Ethena is that because MXRP receives XRP, it does take a loan on centralized exchanges for USD, and then it is the USD that is being traded to generate the returns. But this is also very nice, as we said earlier, because the XRP is locked. The XRP that you deposit as a user is never traded. Instead, there's some stable coins traded. They take yield sources from everywhere else, and they bring it back to buy more XRP in perpetuity. And the goal, again, aggregate all the yield sources, bring 10% yield to XRP. In addition to that, MXRP is going to be composable with DeFi across all ecosystems, which means that there's going to be a lot more opportunities. And as a user, if you want to go more aggressive, if you have higher risk tolerance, you want to go for 20% or 30% returns, this will be possible as well. Of course, there are going to be risk involved with higher returns, but it's definitely possible that we will see some users earning 20 or 30% annual return, depending on their risk tolerance. So just to close the presentation, MXRP is going to go live tomorrow. Initially, it will be available on the XRPL EVM, soon after on multiple DEXs directly on the XRPL, as well as centralized exchanges. The yield is denominated in XRP. You're not going to receive another random token. And we're gonna send over some information tomorrow for the public. For now, feel free to scan the QR code to follow us on X so you can see all of the information tomorrow and also future announcements. Thank you so much for having me and excited to work with all of you.